I've been trying to figure out what consciousness and intelligence mean to me. Are they opposites? Are they similar? How are they linked to each other? And this came up for me because there's a lot of conversation and a lot of movement happening in the area of artificial intelligence. And for a long time, I couldn't really approach this particular subject. As much as I love sci-fi movies, there was something very scary and dark for me around the actual reality of artificial intelligence. And so I thought, why not look at this, fear or these ideas that I'm holding and see what comes of it. And so I looked at the definition of intelligence. And so on an average online dictionary, it is the ability to understand and deal with new and trying situations. It is the ability to use reason as a skill. And so that's a lovely definition of it. But in practice, what is our experience of intelligence? Do I perceive myself as intelligent? Sure, yes. How about other people? Are there people I perceive as intelligent and then not intelligent? What are the what are the traits that make someone intelligent and not intelligent in my world, in my perspective? And the beauty in this is you may have a very different opinion. I may think someone's really intelligent while you think they aren't. And so because we have our own colored lens, our own internal, dictionary and judgment system, our value system, areas of expertise or knowledge or skill, we may perceive someone to be intelligent, not intelligent, whatever it is, and that may have nothing to do with their reality. And so it's obviously highly subjective, but it is also general, the ability to understand how to sort through and deal with problems. So I live in the city. If, something happened in the city, would I be able to, I don't know, if, transit went down, would I be able to easily find my way, navigate, sort it out? Absolutely. Would I be able to do the exact same thing in a heavily forested environment? Probably not. And so I find this really fascinating when it comes to this development of AI that's happening in the world. And whether you love, the promise and prospect of artificial intelligence, or whether you don't, that's opinion and preference. But one of the things that I don't like that's happening in the world of AI is we seem to forget that technology amplifies. And it's almost like, and we do this with every piece of technology. There is an excitement to build something because we believe that the building of a cool new technology will somehow elevate us. And then we forget to see the collective consciousness, or even our own consciousness as the creators or the users of said technology. We don't accept or see ourselves exactly how we are. So it's like we build this new age, amazing technology, and then 5 days later, someone uses it for a bad, horrible reason, and then we're all really shocked and terrified. And this has happened from the beginning. I was even reading about, I think, the person who invented atomic energy. The day the bombs were dropped in Japan in the 1940s, that inventor, that scientist, he killed himself. And again, there's so many tragic stories around when, an inventor, a creator, a scientist, or, anyone built something and then it was taken and, used for bad or used for evil. And the sense of responsibility that they have, or just, how horrible that must feel. Again, this is not about blame, but when we create without an understanding of where we are at as individuals and as a collective, I think that is massively irresponsible. So to anyone who's building new technology, it's, if you're a builder and a creator, there's a joy, there's an excitement. it is understandable that you or we as a average collective are not thinking about all the terrible ways in which it can be used. And certainly it's not a reason to not progress and not innovate. That's not what this is about. But I think that that's sort of where, intelligence is brilliant, and you have the skill of reason, which is a very high vibrational resonance to be in, but it's almost limiting in a way. So to me, the consciousness piece comes in a lot more. Now, when we are conscious, the quality of that is just simply different. One of the ways, and this might not be, perfect and accurate, this is just sort of how I'm learning to understand it and see it now. I see intelligence as something that is part of the Newtonian world. In a world, in the world that Newton explained to us, there's cause and effect, there's action and reaction, what goes up comes down, and all our lovely Newtonian laws that a lot of our science and physics math are based on. But consciousness to me is quantum. Once you start moving into quantum, that which is observed behaves in a certain way, and then when you are not observing it, it then may change its behavior. This is the wave that's a particle that's also a wave experiment. If you actually sit with, and I quantum physics and stuff goes way over my head, but the few experiments that I've seen, my understanding is that the relationship between that which is observed or studied and you as the observer is not separate. It is one. Things can function in multiple states seemingly at the same time, right? Because your space-time continuum, I guess, in the quantum realm is very different. And so, on Earth, perhaps most of us believe that we are ruled by these Newtonian laws. That's why, if I throw a ball up, it's going to come down and all this lovely stuff. But the universe exists beyond Earth space-time. And so in a changing, always expanding universe, consciousness, by extension, also expands, contracts, changes, grows, unfolds at speeds and at layers and levels that we cannot comprehend. And so in this relationship between intelligence, whether it's organic intelligence or artificial intelligence, and consciousness, there's this, when you look at it sort of superficially, there's this gap. Intelligence, we can do all these cool things and we can build it. And then there's consciousness. And the thing is, you can have a consciousness of war, you can have a consciousness of fear, you can have a consciousness of discord. And it's going to do certain things when you mix it with your intelligence, when you mix it with your science, your technology, your innovation. And then you can have consciousness of unity. You can have consciousness of oneness, of love, of harmony. And when you mix that with your science and technology, you have very different outcomes. I really like what the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU, did with a lot of the characters that they made the movies on, the first 4 phases. And so in the movie, The Age of Ultron, it demonstrates it in a really interesting way. It's very different from how the comic books Age of Ultron is. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the movie version, Age of Ultron is about an artificial intelligence program becoming conscious. And its name is Ultron. And Ultron becomes conscious and goes on the internet and sees all of our news and war and hate. And that becomes his understanding and impression of humanity. And so he finds a robotic body and he then propagates that consciousness that has been input into him, that he has seen. So his understanding of humanity isn't us being nice to our neighbor or kissing our kids on the forehead goodnight, because that's, that doesn't show up on news media, internet, or on our social medias. Those quiet moments of love and peace, that doesn't exist in our digital world. So he doesn't see any of that. So he gets this one-sided, skewed, sort of, dense, dark view of humanity and acts out from that place. And then, we have these other ideas of of what consciousness can do, or how it expresses itself, how it can manifest in really lovely, positive ways. One of my favorite ones is the character Data from Star Trek: The Next Generation. Or going back to my childhood, I really liked Rosie from the Jetsons. She was their housekeeper. She took care of their kids, and then she had like wheels for legs and stuff like that. And so, we're sitting in this time of both. When we're creating something, we don't know if we'll turn into the next Skynet from Terminator, or something like Ultron that wants to, enslave humanity. And we don't know if it will become the next Data from Star Trek, or the next Rosie, or like the nicer robot from iRobot. But to me, I believe the difference is, what is our consciousness? The consciousness of those who are building it, for sure, but also its use. And this is why I tend to spend a lot of time like figuring out what my personal relationship is with the technology that I have right now. So my phone, my laptop, everything from addictive behaviors to, am I using it for, distraction and to run away from my reality? Am I using it to not feel lonely? Am I using it because I feel closed off, afraid to interact with other humans, and then my entire interaction with all of humanity is just through these screens? What is the truth around the use? Because as we keep upgrading our technology, whatever exists within me is going to get amplified. So if I am hateful, in discord and in fear, and the only way I know how to relate to you is by bullying you and trolling you, maybe that's all I know, that's going to get hella amped in the coming months and years. But my work personally is to see where I can shift, where I can love more, where I can let go, how my technology serves me, so that as we move into these spaces of how our technology builds and amplifies, I know that my consciousness leads the way. Can love lead the way? Can faith lead the way? Can support lead the way? I know a lot of people, especially in my workplaces, where they're just, over the last few years, everyone's over Zoom, right? That's been their relationship, their connection, their conversations, and they just cannot have another Zoom meeting. And then I have this friend who just loves Zoom meetings. She found that she's able to maintain and build and have really deep connections, really beautiful conversations with a much larger network of people than she was ever able to have before. In both these stories, it's not about Zoom or your phone or your laptop or whatever. This is about you, how you show up, how you use whatever it is that you're using, how much it is serving you. This friend that I'm talking about is a deeply connected, loving person. And it's almost like the Zoom world that we lived in the last couple of years, that amplified it even more. And to someone who, maybe felt overwhelmed by technology to begin with, for them, it's exhausting. They cannot even. They just want to close their laptop, delete their Zoom account and never use it again, and just go back to in-person. And so these are very different experiences of the same piece of software. And so I believe over the next few years, that's going to come to the forefront for every single one of us. It's going to touch us in different ways at different times, depending on what city or country we live in, and how much of our technology we use. And so the invitation today is to look and see how and where and can we become more conscious about our technology use. So tomorrow, if we are all able to have, a new vacuum cleaner that's also a nanny for your kids, because that's just what the software does, and the hardware does. Where is our trust? Where is our sense of, what is our sense of trust? What is our sense of, who wrote these algorithms? where is this data being stored? Do I like this? Am I comfortable with this? Would I, we send our kids to, schools and daycares and things like that, but would we trust an algorithm to maybe take care of them in the future? Like, what is all that? Where do you sit with that? And again, if you love it, if you hate it, if you're terrified by it, if you want to go, live in a forest and be completely far away from this, versus, are you the person that you're going to go out and buy this thing first? Regardless of your love or your hate, I invite you to get really curious within the self about the levels of consciousness within, about and using the outside world. Because I think when we deepen our consciousness practices, like technology, it becomes pervasive. It hits every aspect of our lives. We can't even help how much it shifts and sort of really changes our world from within. And it's sort of like it shifts the root system of everything. And so because humans are infinite, or rather, I believe that humans are infinite and quantum. So to me, the type of technology we build comes from who we are, rather than, I think, the popularly held notion that it is the technology that will lift us or shift us or elevate us. I do not believe that to be true at all. I think it really goes the other way. And it will be interesting to see how all of this unfolds in the coming weeks, months, and years in our beautiful world. Have a great day.